Hey, this is Dani, and I just wanted to share something with you. I need to get more in the habit of recording these videos when they're happening because I really do use it as a tool to kind of talk things out. And so after the fact, after I've already processed things, I don't really necessarily want to go back and do that. Sometimes I think it's helpful for these insights into the thought process, and it can help other people by just giving them directions in which to question themselves or to question their perspectives and things like that, which is what I do to try to grow and to develop, as a human. So what happened was I was on my way up Pikes Peak, and there's a Cog Railway, and it's this great experience where I have a fear of mountain driving, and I did not think that I could drive myself to the top of Pikes Peak and then back down again. I was even more worried about the drive down. So plus 14,000 feet. My van is old. The brakes are fine, but I don't want to mess with stuff like that, especially being alone. So safety first. I took the Cog Railway up, but here's the deal. So the main thing is that the seat was not big enough, and the seats were in rows of, there were 3 seats altogether, and there was a little space for your bottom and then there was no space in between. There was just like it went like this to kind of cushion you, just a tiny bit of an upturn on either side, and then immediately the next seat started, and it was the same way. And to give you an idea of size or scope, they don't do women's sizing like they do men's. I don't wear a 52 waist and a 32 inseam or whatever. I have to give you the sizes. Like for a women's on the bottom, I'm like a women's 24. I would say that seat was made ideally for about a 12 or below, up to possibly a 16 or so. But so I was over on the seat, and I got a window seat because you do not want to be on a railroad, in a rail car and want to take video and not have a window seat. So I was up against the wall. Again, no space between the seat and the wall. I was right up against the wall. So the only other place my butt had to go was right next to the person next to me. And it was so uncomfortable because we're touching, and was I wearing shorts? I was wearing shorts because it was like almost 90 degrees that day. And the woman next to me was wearing pants, thank goodness, because we weren't skin on skin. But so the whole time I was sitting there, and I was trying so hard to make myself as small as I could possibly make myself. I was trying to kind of lift up my legs and just scoot over as far as I could, and I tried to keep my legs together and off to the one side, but like I said, there's the wall here, and I'm just trying to take up as little space, and I'm tall also, so the woman who was across from me were facing each other. This is another thing that's so weird about, they do it on trains a lot, right? But the whole thing where you sit and you're facing this way and they're facing this way, so you're just staring at people you don't know. And I can be kind of outgoing and stuff, but the 2 people who were sitting across from me, I tried to talk to them at first, and they were more interested in talking to each other, which I totally get it. We talked a lot more on the way down, and it was a mother and her son, and they were having a nice visit, and but anyway, we talked on the way down. But so we're all sitting here facing each other, and I couldn't really break the ice with them, so I was feeling uncomfortable. The woman next to me didn't say a word, and I felt terrible about kind of taking up some of her seat, even though she and her husband were of each of a size where they would actually fit in the seat nicely. And she would kind of lean over to him sometimes. But the whole time I was too tall because my legs came out too far. My feet were sticking out too far. I was taking up more than half the space between like me and the person who was looking directly at me. And I was taking up too much space on the side, and I felt terrible. And I mean, I wanted to cry, but I was just trying to hold myself back. I have my bag on my lap, and I'm literally kind of like sitting like this, like holding my arms together and in so that I'm not, bumping up into her or anything. I'm like holding myself in, holding my leg over. Whenever I get a chance or feel like I'm slipping at all, sliding closer to the side, to the wall, to the big window. And it is miserable to try to make yourself smaller. And I've never felt so big. I've never felt so fat. I've never felt so big as when I was sitting there trying to make myself small. And it was really upsetting. And if you've been watching my journey, I'm working on the intuitive eating stuff. And as I've dug into more of the intuitive eating, I realized that I have I would say on the milder side, but still a binge eating disorder. So I've been working on that. I've been doing a lot of work with all of that. But it's a long process, right? And it's a long process. And my body didn't start to just shrink just as soon as I started it. It's a long process. So trying to make ourselves small, and it was miserable. It made the trip miserable, just trying to hold myself in. And by the time I got off the train, I was so exhausted. I was so tired from just holding myself in and everything. And feeling so out of place and unwanted and like I was too much. And, sometimes we don't know like how all these things come together, but for some reason, and I don't know where it came from, I was looking for an audiobook and something was going through my mind. I actually recently got the book called The Body Keeps the Score, which is about trauma and how our bodies hold on to things, right? And everything isn't all mind driven like we think it is. A lot of it, some of it is in the body, especially trauma, and our responses to trauma and to triggers from past trauma. So I ended up. So this book on The Body Keeps the Score is it's interesting, but it's depressing, and it's full of people who've experienced trauma and blah, blah, blah. When I was looking for the audiobook, because I left the physical book back home and I was thinking of reading it, I think this is how it happened. I started with The Body, and instead of Keeps the Score on Audible, I typed in The Body, and it came up, The Body is Not an Apology. It is this book. I can't look at who it's by because it's on my phone. Sonia. I think it's Sonia, somebody. But I'll have to get her. I'll put her name down at the bottom and maybe a picture of her book or something. But it's called The Body is Not an Apology. And it's about how society and culture and family and everything has these kind of normal, like standards. And for any of us who don't fit it in any way, for me, the main thing is my size. For some people, it might be a physical disability or something that keeps them from being completely able-bodied. Like it keeps them from doing things. It makes them feel uncomfortable in certain situations. It can be people of color, the color of someone's skin and how people react to it. It can be maybe you're loud and boisterous, or you have people would call it obnoxious laugh, or like, we all have these things that we don't see as normal or as acceptable to society. And society was geared for kind of the normal and the middle and like what they all deem as acceptable and deem as normal or whatever. And just that one line, the body is not an apology, was so impactful to me in that moment. And I really just wanted to share it, hoping that someone else needs to see this and that it will help as well. The body is not an apology. And one thing with the intuitive eating, the binge eating, and the body is not an apology is they all really talk a lot about shame, because there's so much shame in not fitting into what society thinks you should be. There's so much shame that you feel for not being able to be what everyone thinks you're supposed to be, or whatever that standard is. And so I know this has got to help someone. I know this channel is small, and I don't care if one person hears this and it helps in any way, but I know I needed to hear that my body is not an apology. In other words, I shouldn't have to apologize for my body. She also goes into how acceptance of our body is different than what she's talking about. Really is radical self-love. But she says acceptance of our body just isn't good enough. Like, think about what you accept. You accept things that are, when that word comes up, it brings a connotation of, well, it's not quite good enough, but I accept it anyway. Like, you accept, a crappy job, or you accept that you have to do this terrible thing you don't want to do, or you accept that you are in a crappy relationship, but you don't want to waste all the time that you've already put in, and you don't want to be alone, or want to look for someone new, or all of these things. So it's not about just acceptance. It's about really, like, this is the body that I get to go through life in. And what if it was just okay? What if I didn't have to apologize for any of it? What if I could just be me? What if I could just be in this body? And when I was thinking about this, I have always, it's just been ingrained in my mind, and it's such a natural part of my thinking that I don't even realize that I'm doing it. So I was thinking of a couple of different times, like, I constantly used to, I'm getting out of it right now, but I would constantly try to wear things that were the most flattering thing I could wear to my body. So for a bigger body like mine, that meant a lot of black. For years, I wore so much black. I almost exclusively wore black. Because black will, take 10 pounds off or whatever, which is so funny. I wore exclusively black. I only recently started wearing color, honestly, to a great extent. And I just started wearing shorts over the last couple of years of being overweight, have finally started to wear shorts. When I started van life, it was kind of, I was forced into it. I tried before then, and every once in a while I could make myself do it, but I always felt so self-conscious and so bad in shorts. I still feel extremely self-conscious, but it's getting better. It's getting better. It's kind of like my fear of heights, exposing myself to it, working through it one thing at a time. Okay, I didn't die. I guess I lived through that one. That's okay. I'm doing okay. Then I can handle something again. And I just did a Royal Gorge. Oh my gosh. So anyway, you have to watch that video on the van channel. But what was I going to say? I always want to wear something in particular, or do something, whether it's hair or makeup or nails or whatever that is going to make me look as good as I can possibly look. And I gave up makeup a while ago, but that was kind of almost a pandemic thing that kind of I never have been huge into makeup, but at least like eyeliner, mascara, a little bit of lip. Now I have Carmex. I wear Carmex on my lips, not color or anything. But anyway, another thing is, so I would always want to try to minimize my weight and everything, like I was fooling someone, like people didn't notice, like if I wore black, I would look acceptable. Like if I wore black, no one would notice how big I was, right? And part of it was in the vein of being invisible, making myself just invisible and blend in so that no one would notice me, so that I could kind of protect myself from attention or protect myself from being hurt in any way. Another thing is, so I started reading this book and all of these things started coming up for me. I was at a conference one time and I was talking to this woman, and she's a beautiful woman, but she had hair like almost kind of like mustachy, hair like we get. Like I cut mine, but some people cut it, some people don't get it, right? And I remembered talking to her thinking, I wonder why she doesn't cut it or remove it or bleach it, or I wonder why she doesn't. Gosh, she would look so much better. I remember having that thought in my head. It was like so ingrained. I do it to myself and I do it to others. And that's another thing that the book is talk about is when we truly, truly, truly accept ourselves for all that we are and all the ways that we're not okay or not normal or whatever. When we do that for ourselves, we automatically do it for other people. It's an automatic thing. It's like you can't give what you don't have. It's true. You have to have that love first. And it makes you so much more aware of your judgments of other people. And so you can have compassion for yourself and for others who we're all going through something. If it's not this, it's whatever else. We all are going through stuff in our lives. Even the people, I'm telling you right now, the people that you look at that you think, oh, they have it all. Can you imagine how lucky their lives are? They have something in life that they are going through that you can't even imagine. And I know we know that's true, right? Another thing is, okay, so I did that video on my van life channel, You and Me Living Free, where I was doing cooking in the back of my van, and I was so self-conscious, and I was like, I'm showing you guys all these ugly angles, and I'm reaching and showing my under my arms and like all these places I don't like to show. And one of my subscribers said, we already know what size you are, and we love you. It doesn't, just get over it, is basically what she said. I'm paraphrasing. But at first I was kind of like almost hurt or taken back. Like, what do you mean you know what size I am? Like, I've been hiding it. I hide it in some ways. Like I try at least to have a little bit of the lighting looking decent. I try to not, necessarily, show this as prime time. Like I don't highlight it. I do a lot of these if I'm talking in a video, and plus if I'm just shooting myself, usually my body's not in it just because I'm shooting myself and it's very hard unless someone else is around. And I need to get better at using my little tripod, but I don't. But anyway, and at first I was like, oh my gosh, what do you mean you know what size I am? And then I was like, Dani, who do you think you're kidding? Who do you think you're fooling? Just by not showing it all the time. Everybody knows it's there. And then it was so liberating. I was so happy that she said that. And it just brought it to the surface for me and made it so clear, like, what do I think I'm hiding, and why do I bother, and why I'm acceptable? You don't have to like how I look. I can just go in like I am, and I don't have to worry about whether you like it or not, or whether I'm acceptable to you or not, or it's huge. And the hair is a big part of it, but my size is also another just big chunk. No pun intended. Big chunk of it. Oh, anyway, the body is not an apology. I'm not very far in the book, maybe 20% in, but it's beautiful for anybody who is larger sized or has another difference that that makes them feel uncomfortable in the world. It talks about, when's the first time you felt shame about your body? When's the first time that someone made you feel that shame, like you just weren't good enough, you weren't right, you weren't fitting the mold. And it's got these great little exercises in it and everything, and it's a beautiful book, and someone I just think needs to hear that, and it's my mantra for right now, is my body is not an apology. My body is not an apology. So I don't have to apologize for my body, and I don't have to try to make it look smaller than it is. Another thing, so I didn't wear shorts for the longest time. I still hardly ever wear a tank top. Hardly ever wear a tank top. You've seen me doing a few videos, but usually it's only just because I know you guys are going to see from here up, and all you can see is my little shoulders, and occasionally I'll wear a tank top. But I'm out in Colorado. We're having, we had a 90-degree day before, but now I'm more up in the mountains, so it's cooler. But it's going to be warm. I'm going to be at an outdoor event, all this stuff. So I'm going to be wearing tank tops. I was at Walmart the other day and bought, I think, 3 tank tops because I only own 2. I think 2 is what I own. Maybe 3. I only brought 2 with me on the trip. And then I bought another 3 tank tops. So I am going to wear them over the next several days when it gets really warm. And I'm going to remind myself that I don't have to apologize for my body, that I don't have to be self-conscious, that I don't have to worry if someone likes the way I look, that I can just take up the space that I take. Whatever space I take up, I take up. And it isn't that I'm so wrong. It isn't that there's something wrong with me. It is that society just wants us to be in this fit into these narrow little boxes. And we don't always. And it can be really, really painful. So to anyone out there who is struggling, I'm sending you a ton of love. Anyone who's listening, I'm sending you a ton of love. And let me know if you needed to hear it, or if you might know someone who needs to hear it. Your body is not an apology. You don't have to apologize for it. Take up your space. Laugh loud, do what you do, don't wear your makeup, wear wild, vibrant clothes. For years, I wouldn't wear patterns because I was like, oh, big patterns make you look big. I wouldn't wear horizontal stripes. I'm like, big horizontal stripes make you look bigger. So what? So what? So what? So... boy, this is really going to get a test this weekend and moving into this next week too, because I joined a group called Escapers, and they're having a convergence. So there's going to be about 150 people, and they're all together, and there's 3 different nights where they're going to have a bar, and they're going to have music, and they're going to have everybody out in this party atmosphere, and I am by myself. And my social anxiety is so strong for situations like that. Plus, if it's hot, I'm not gonna wear one of my a lot of my regular t-shirts. This t-shirt is thinner, but a lot of my regular t-shirts, the V-neck t-shirts that I wear all the time, are really kind of thick. And they look nice, I think, but they're very thick. And so when it gets warm, they're too hot. If it's hot and we're gonna do music and stuff, I'm gonna try to wear my tank top. And I'm gonna try to just be comfortable in my body. I'm going to try to stand up straight and to look people in the eye and to smile and to not be so self-conscious, and to wear shorts. Maybe even if I think about the size of my thighs and my what are the dimples, my cellulite and everything, maybe I'll think of them, maybe I won't. Hopefully I won't. So maybe I'll let you know how it goes. I think the first big event is Saturday night. Today is Thursday. So I don't know if this video will upload to YouTube, but within the next few days, I'm going to have to try out this theory. So wish me luck. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you to all my patrons. Thank you for watching. Thank you, my patrons, for the extra support. I love all of you. Sending you a ton of love. Thank you, thank you, thank you.